to yet another episode of the Heart to Heart podcast with Mike and Shiko. What's up, baby girl?
Hey.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Why are you putting on your sexy voice? You're not supposed to put it. You go like, hey.
Maybe my voice is just
Well, I'd like to apologize that we uploaded our YouTube video a bit later on. And
super late.
I have a confession to make. Mm-hmm. We may have uploaded even the Spotify super late.
What?
When I scheduled it for the wrong time.
Oh, jeez.
And so it came out super late. So,
guys, we're going to do better. We're going to do better. This one, episode 9, is going to be up on time across all platforms, right?
Yes, it will be up on time. We will be very intentional about that. But in my defense, there was a lot that happened throughout this week. I lost my grandfather, I lost my uncle. My mind was all over the place. I totally could not focus on one thing or the other.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's life. It's life. So I'd like to actually take this opportunity and celebrate him.
Yeah.
So to my late grandfather, George Mwamodo,
The original Mondo. May his soul rest in peace. He was absolutely an icon. I mean, if I do half the things that he's done in life, I think I would have done a great life. Yeah,
that's good to know. And thank you, babe, for being like there for me throughout this time.
Of course.
It's been really great.
Yeah.
Yes, so Kumbuka, you can find us on all the platforms, of course, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, we're everywhere. Yeah, so go ahead and hit us up. Let us know what you think. It's the Heart to Heart podcast with Mike and Shiko. You can find us also on Instagram
at Shikonguru,
and also myself, Mike_Mondo. And your week so far, aside from my family issues, how was your week?
Yeah, I mean, that was tough, I think, for all of us. And I was really feeling for you because that was a lot all at once. Mm-hmm. It's just been, adulting, being a Kenyan, being a parent. Jeez, it's hard. It is rough.
And we had to endure an extra few days of school because of Mandamanos last week. They disrupted a lot of things, so the kids had to be in school
an extra 3 days. They were supposed to close last week, but
sour. In our last episode, of course, it was the book of Judges, right? And now we are on the book of Ruth.
Yes.
What are some of the things that for you the story of Ruth stands out for you?
The most memorable verse, maybe, or part of Ruth was where Ruth tells Naomi, where you go, I'll go, and your people will be my people. Like, me and you are bound together for life. And she's talking to her mother-in-law.
Yeah.
So Ruth was married to Naomi's son.
Yes.
And then Naomi's son passes away. Mm-hmm. And Naomi is kind of like, okay, girl, go do your own thing, go prosper. And Naomi's like, excuse me, I'm not going anywhere. Me and you, we're bound together for life. Just because this man is dead does not mean our ties are severed.
Yeah.
And so Ruth really displays her loyalty to Naomi, her mother-in-law, by saying, where you go,
you're going to.
Yeah.
And that's very true. So brings out that sense of, they were like, gang, you're my homie,
Deep.
What's very interesting about that relationship was that bond, that connection between Ruth and her mother-in-law.
Yeah.
Do you think, for example, you and my mom should be tight?
I would love that.
And you've actually always said that.
Yeah, I would love that.
Yeah.
I think it's really envious to have that sort of a relationship with your mother-in-law. Like, speaking as a woman, I would love to have that relationship where I see my mother-in-law as my mom, just like the way she is your mom, my mom, and to feel that love and acceptance and loyalty. I would love that.
So you think, in your opinion, it's important for couples to have close connections with your in-law? So whether you're the guy, you'd want me to also be tight with your old man, for instance.
I would love that. That's the dream.
And for you to be tight with my mom and that sort of thing.
I think so. What do you think?
Yes, it is important. I believe I should feel as comfortable with your old man as I would feel as comfortable with my mom. Yeah. And also same thing with your mom. I should feel comfortable enough to go to them when I feel I need to go to them. And if Made needs anything, she knows she can even say, hey, Mike, come take these guaches, and take them home.
Yeah.
My grandkids are there, and that sort of thing. But however, when it comes to those relationships with the in-laws, then what happens to boundaries? There are relationships between in-laws that can be unhealthy. For instance, in-laws who feel like even though their child has married or has moved on to start his own family or her own family, they play such a big role in the decisions that couple now makes. So how important should it be? Just like in the story of Ruth and Naomi, like Naomi is telling Ruth, you know what, you can go live your life, right? Do you feel like a lot of couples get that opportunity when they get married, where their parents say, okay, now, deuces, or their parents nowadays get more involved with their children's lives?
Gosh. I mean, obviously it varies, but for me, I have such an idealistic view of how the relationship between in-laws and their children should be that I have a hard time even seeing the downsides of like the extreme where the in-laws can't let go. Because I feel like my direct experience, of course I've heard stories of where mama's boys just listen to their moms.
Yeah.
Or, people just can't live their lives because of in-laws. But I think my personal experience has been the extreme where for me and my in-laws, I don't feel that super closeness. And I've always wanted to feel that where I don't see the downsides. But of course, in terms of like just dating or even being married, there needs to be boundaries. I think I have dated men who, they're not even mama's boys, they're daddy's boys.
You've mentioned that to me before.
Yeah, like their dads are super wealthy and the super patriarchs of the family, and so everything the dad says goes. And it's almost like they're 40 plus years old and still acting like kids, like boys in the household. I don't know whether they would change in terms of a marriage, but I can only imagine how difficult it would be. He's not the head of a household. His dad is the head of our household.
And literally dictates whatever it is his life is going to go, his career, even down to who he's going to marry.
And where the kids will go to school.
Yes, and things like that. I'm sure there has to be boundaries. I remember in a previous episode, you mentioned the idea that if you came to my house when I was a bachelor and you found a woman in the kitchen cooking and I'm your boyfriend, you'd feel offended. Now, what if you came into the house and found my mom cooking in the kitchen? And she's like, oh, let me prepare something for the kids because, they're all here. How would that make you feel?
Honestly, I wouldn't be bothered as much by that unless she went out of her way to make me feel like, by there you're just a guest here.
Yes.
Just know this is me. Like me, I am the queen of this house.
No one cooks chapos for my son like I cook chapos. So even your chapos are not good enough.
Yeah.
But don't you think there's a responsibility? And I see a lot of men who say things like, for example, hey, my mom makes the best this, or my mom does the best that. Should you then expect your woman to try and figure out how the mom does?
If you wanted to marry your mother, then you have other issues going on.
No, not that. It's just like, for example, there's certain things that are culturally based. Like, for example, if you marry Lunje, for instance, right? They love their ugali. Now, you don't know how to songa an ugali properly, the way he likes it. But his mother-in-law knows how to songa it.
His mom.
Now his mom, knows how to songa that ugali the way he likes it. Would you say, okay, let me find out?
No, come on. I feel like if you're a man or if you're a woman and you find yourself thinking, I need someone who will do something just like mommy does or just like daddy does, I'm sorry. There's something off about that. I mean, our parents are the model for certain things.
Yeah.
Maybe for a girl, it would be, I love the way my dad always brought flowers home on Valentine's Day or something like that. But when it starts being a deciding factor, how close the other person is to your dad or your mom.
Yes.
Or how heavily your mom or your dad influences who you pick as a lover, as a spouse.
Yeah.
That's a bit...
I mean, that's a lot, like when it comes to influencing that, but there's certain preferences that people just enjoy. Like, I'll give you an example. Back in the day, before we got married, you'd have had to go and sit down with the aunties. They used to call it a kitchen party. In Mombasa, a kitchen party. So you'd have to go and sit down with my mom, your mom, my aunties, your aunties, and they teach you how to make Mike happy.
Yeah, I've heard of those, but that's like during like bridal shower. It's like like
Yes.
the traditional bridal shower.
Exactly. Some symbols remain in modern day weddings where, your mom would give you a kiondo or would give you this or would give you that. And I've seen it in weddings that I've emceed where even dads have told men marrying their daughters that I've raised her in a beautiful home. She's never pandered a matatu. She always goes out, let's say once or twice a week. She goes on vacation to Europe every once a year. And then they throw that expectation on that groom.
Like maintain the standard.
Yeah,
I've
like
set.
maintain the standard.
Yeah.
And yet, I hear also a lot of women say, if my dad gave me this standard, I'm not going to downgrade. So who is the best person to teach me other than your dad?
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I get that. Like now that you put it like that, I get what you're saying. But I also think it depends on where it's coming from. For example, if my mother-in-law came to me and was like, I love my son and I want him to be happy. And I think you can make him happy. And if there's anything I can tell you that can create this happy home for you guys, let me tell you. Like, for example, if she thinks teaching me how you
to make
like
the best chapels.
Yeah, if that's what she thinks will make you happy and therefore make me happy and us happy, that's different. But then where it's like a competition, where it's like competitive.
Yeah. So if she came in with a sense of friendliness,
Yeah,
right?
those ones of
Shiko. Before you marry Mike, there's some secret family ingredient.
Yeah, here's a hack. Here's how to hack Mike.
Hey, ukifanya hivi. So now you feel like there's a sense of friendship that is there.
And similarly, if my dad was like, listen, my baby girl deserves the best.
Yeah.
And I want you to give her the best. So let me challenge you as a man to put your best foot forward because this is what I believe she deserves. And you can do it. I think there's also a sense of what are the intentions? There's like mothers who will say, I'm the number one in my son's life. Okay, this I just see from, I've never experienced it, but like that's different. We're not in competition. I should never feel like I'm in competition with your mom.
Mother, that is true.
Yeah.
That is true. Let me ask you, what do you do with family expectations in terms of the spouse of their child? For instance, with the story of Ruth and Naomi was very willing to tell Ruth, go and marry someone else and move on and, start your life.
Yeah,
Again,
it's okay to start your life.
Right?
Yeah.
How do you think our parents feel? Like, for example, you break up with the person you married. Now you've had a divorce, you've split up. Do you think as parents, they should be able to tell their kids, now you're divorced, but you know what, you can start again? Or now
they're in-laws now.
Yeah, now you're in-laws, right? Like, should they have any say in that matter? Such that would you feel betrayed? For example, if you were that close with my mom, and then God forbid we broke up and we were married 10 years in, and my mom and you already have a relationship, and you find out, like, my mom is saying, no, find another woman and get married.
No, how would you feel if you found out that your mom and I are still friends and she's even telling me, look, you and my son didn't work out, but I love you, girl, and you deserve the world? How would you feel if you found out your ex is still really close with your family?
I think it would depend on how badly we broke up.
Yeah.
Like if it was something that was really serious, I'd feel betrayed by my mother.
If you felt aggrieved, but what if it was serious, but it's not like she did anything wrong?
If it was my mistake that caused us to break up, in fact, I'd encourage it so that I can try and get you back.
Okay,
but,
let's say it is not so black and white. Both of you felt aggrieved.
Yeah.
But it's not obvious, like it's not like...
we felt like we're not right for each other anymore. We've probably changed in many ways and now we don't feel like we're compatible anymore.
But the process was painful, so there's still a lot of hurt.
No, I wouldn't mind that. I think for me, what would make me feel really bad is if you did me wrong and I find out that my mom's side is still keeping that friendship with you. I'll be like, surely, why? And to be honest, in my case, I think I only have one ex who my mom, up to this day, I think they still like DM each other on Facebook and stuff. But that was because my mom is like that. Like, she forms deep connections and she will always ask me, how's Shiko?
Yeah.
How's the kids? Like, she'll always want to know. And because of that, she can't stop. So, God forbid, if anything happened to us, I know she'll keep asking. And I know she'll probably even slide into your DM or even call you. Hi, Shiko, how are you? How are the kids? When are you coming to see me? And
I would love that because, like you're saying, it all depends on the circumstances surrounding the breakup and also the immediate circumstances that follow the breakup. Because some breakups are ugly, and we've both had those.
Yeah, they're messy.
Where if I found out my family was talking to my ex, I would be like, are you kidding me? Like, that's picking a side in a battle, because there's sides.
Yes.
But there's other situations where I know, like, my family still talks to one of my exes.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with that. Like, when he's in the country, he calls my brother.
Yeah.
That's even, I encourage it. Like, it's great. It's perfect. Like, he calls me. Like, we meet up, and he meets up with my family when they're in the country where he stays. They do the same. And that's okay, because there's no sides to pick.
Yes,
there.
Exactly.
So I think you're right. I think it depends
on what caused the breakup.
Yeah, and what happened. Like, what kind of situation exists after the breakup.
So that is a breakup situation, but in a darker situation. What if death, God forbid, a widower, and I'm left behind with 5 babies to think about, and I feel, let's say, overwhelmed or so, like, I need help here.
Yeah.
And I get another wife. Do you feel like that should be a reason for family members to be like, look, he's already moving on, and our girl left, and like that kind of situation?
I hope not. And I think that's why, if there's no bad feelings, if it's not something horrible that caused the rift, if it's death, which no one wishes for that, then I truly think that's why it's important that you build close relationships with
your in-laws.
With your in-laws, when you're all alive.
Yes.
Because God brought you guys together for a reason.
Yeah.
If it weren't for meeting you, I wouldn't know your mom, I wouldn't know your brothers or my bonus daughters.
Yes.
And I would want to continue having them in my life, even in your absence.
In that absence.
Yeah, and that's why I would love to have those deep relationships. But let me put a question to you. So I am a huge fan of deep relationships and blah, blah, blah. But what happens when now the relationships are so deep that those members of the family, or even maybe close friends, start to take a more active role in your relationship, where now every single problem we're bringing in your mom, we're bringing in, my best friend is giving her opinion, and your buddies at the local are telling you what you should do. How do we draw the line between, okay, we want a community, but then also we have to protect the sanctity of our relationship, like me and you, our union? If
other people feel they have a say in my relationship, then I am the problem, because I let them have a say in my relationship. I gave them the permission that made them feel comfortable enough to have an opinion about my relationship. And that is going to be a me issue. In fact, I'd be very okay with you getting mad at me because a lot of people have an opinion about our relationship. Here's the thing. People will always treat you depending on how you let them treat you. If I show my friends and my family that you are the most important thing in my life, as my friends and family, they should be able to advise me in ways to keep us together, not in ways to break us apart. It's like a very interesting analogy I've heard before, where someone, he was asked something similar to what you're saying, like, what kind of friends do you have around you? And he said, if I told my friend, like, yo, let's go out for lunch, or let's go out for a night out, or let's go somewhere for the weekend, the first thing they'll do is ask, have you talked to my partner? Yeah.
Like, does Shiko know?
Yeah. And then here's where the kicker came in. He was asked, really? And then he kept on saying, yeah, they would ask, like, have you asked Shiko? He was asked, and what about if you guys are fighting with your partner and they came and told you something? He said, my friends will side with my wife.
Oh, that's so interesting.
And then he was asked why, and said, because they know she's the most important thing for me. So every single time I have a fight with my wife, and if they know it, they always side with my wife.
That is so interesting.
And I saw that and I was like, wow, that's actually quite important, because most of the time you find, you tell your friend, hey, Mike and I are fighting, and the first thing you hear is, F that person.
Yeah.
Oh, he's not treating you right. And you have...
Men are trash.
Men are trash. I hate that statement, by the way.
That's why I said it.
It's like a lot of people have so many yes men around them. that they're always there to just reinforce how you feel and your emotions, even though they're wrong.
I agree. Like, there are some people who I wouldn't tell if we were having problems. I also think, like, there's some things you should keep between you and your spouse.
Yeah.
Because you might tell a yes man or a yes girl, and they'll be like, yeah, I hate him and he's horrible.
Yes.
Then you and your person make up. And now how do you feel about this person who was telling you to dump him or dump her?
Exactly.
Or go cheat on him or go cheat on her? But I also think I am very happy. Hearing you say that makes me realize, Haya, I have people in my life who are and you don't know this, but they
Team Mike.
Oh my gosh, they are team. I even know, I'm not even going to tell her because I know she'll say, well, I can see where he's coming from, and I'll be like, girl, shut up. That is not what I came here for. That is not why I am here.
Yeah.
But I know if I tell my best friend, for example, she'll be like, okay, I can see why you're mad, but I can also see, and I'll immediately be like, oh, here we go.
Here we go.
So I think there are people, they won't tell you what you want to hear, but they also won't be so quick to judge the other person. And so there are safe spaces.
Exactly. Why do you think therapy works? You don't go necessarily to go and point a finger and get someone to tell you yes. No, a therapist will call you out and say, okay, fine, you're saying this, but he's hearing that, and he's saying that, but you're hearing this. And so they just make you understand each other. So when you look at your friend circle, are they your yes men who, whenever you come and say, Mike is a bad person, they're always chatting, oh, I knew that from day one. Oh, Lord, and all of these things. You see these kind of things. And sometimes I get people who tell me things, and like I told you, and I've talked about this on a previous episode, where people would say like, hey, Mike, you're dating a mother of 3? Like, how? Like, and I look at them and I'm like, you truly are not my friend. Because if you were, you'd be the first one to say like, yo, you know what? Me, I'm here for your happiness. If you're finding happiness in that woman, I don't care if she's the mother of 20. Bro, do you, and I got you. Every time something is wrong, it doesn't help in always just putting fuel into the fire. Sometimes it's good to have people who will ask you, okay, I understand why you're feeling this way. However, could it be also like this? And this is why it's like that. It's people who show you a different side of a coin.
Yes, there's people who will say, oh my gosh, you are so happy and I see your happiness and I'm here for it. And then there's other people who are just team the other person. Like, oh my gosh, I just love Mike or I just love Shiko and therefore you two are happy together. So what happens when it's people who are an extreme? So no matter what, like they love you. I love Mike. And so I am sure, or I love Shiko, and I am sure this is the wrong person for him or her.
So and so.
And it's not someone who you can easily drop. You know, it's a family member.
You see, that's the thing, that it's not for you to determine what is right or wrong for that person.
As a friend or
as a friend or a family member. It's not for you. Your only role is to be there for them in case things are good or in case things are bad. I don't get why people have an opinion about another person's life.
They think they know the best.
You think you know what's the best for them.
Yeah, I know the best for me.
Oh, I know the best. And sometimes you find like some of these friends and family members are projecting their own issues on you. Because it happened to me, so it's going to happen to you. Oh, I know how this story ends. It's like the arguments I have on radio sometimes. And some of my callers tell me things like, oh, Mike, you know what? You're still in your honeymoon phase of your relationship and you don't know the truth. You know it's going to burn. And I hear these stories and I always ask myself a simple question. Why is it when you hear something good about someone, your first reaction is to project whatever didn't work in your life onto this person and say, even yours is going to happen that way?
Especially that one for, you guys are still in your honeymoon phase. Or even words. Like, you know, they'll reach a point where you won't even want to see each other. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so sad. Like, we hold hands a lot, just in general.
In fact, we were told in church, we are one of 2 couples who hold hands in church.
And we've been noted. But like, something like that, someone will say, you guys are still early days. Of course you're holding hands. And I find that so sad when people who have reached a point in their own relationships or marriages where they're not as loving and romantic as they once were.
Yeah.
Not that holding hands is the ultimate sign of love, but like whatever the issue is, or even being told, she still says she misses you, please, that'll end.
That will end.
Yeah.
I was told that calling each other babe ends. And this is why I always believe there's a point where people get lazy in their relationships or their marriages. And that's why there's a lot of studies that talk about and books that talk about spicing things up. And if you get caught in that cycle of just taking everything for granted, then you end up in that space where now all of a sudden mezoyana, you're sleeping in the house like brother and sister. In fact, you guys don't even talk anymore.
The roommate phase, as it's called.
Exactly.
And I feel like that's so sad. And so with this thing of like influence from outside parties, I also think, forget even family and close friends, I also think these small statements like, you'll stop being so loving, or you'll stop thinking about each other as much, or you're a man, see, even you'll get like a side chick eventually. Like these are just early days. I think you should protect your relationship from such influence as well, because if we start to normalize having clan days, having Ben 10s, what are we saying about relationships in general?
But isn't that just a reflection of how much society has become so rotten and that's full of broken hearts and broken emotions that people don't even realize it? And because in Kenya, we are still working on that notion that therapy is for mad people. Till this day, people say these things.
Madare people.
It's for Madare people. You're not realizing the amount of trauma you carry in your heart, the amount of pain you carry in your heart. And so you look for coping mechanisms, which is, for example, looking for a side chick or looking to, get yourself extra women in your life. And, there's several different things that you do just to cope, because also you're bending on societal pressure that, I want to be seen as married. And so I can't leave my toxic situation. I will stay here, but I'll have a coping mechanism on the other end that will help me stay in my marriage.
And because maybe misery loves company, let's normalize it so that it's like we're all going through this.
Yeah, we're all going through it.
So now all of us are going on girls' trips to Naivasha and bringing these young two boys. Or, an Uber driver told me, I'll never forget, Ati, outside certain universities.
Yes.
You'll just see women in big cars picking up boys on like Friday and dropping them back at these universities on Sunday.
In fact, by the way, don't forget you're listening to the Heart to Heart podcast with Mike and Shiko, and please make sure you get your friends to subscribe and of course be part of this absolutely amazing journey that we are trying to create, Shiko and I. But in terms of that, you just like you said, those big cars that go to campuses to pick up those small boys, obviously those women are probably in very dysfunctional marriages. How important now is the in-law, the Naomi in their life? I know we talked about when their influence can be a bit negative and how it can be a bit positive, but how important is it now you have that relationship with your mother-in-law or your father-in-law such that you can sit and say, bruh, this man,
what is wrong with your son?
What's wrong with this person? Mbona anafanya hivi na hivi? And what's the weight of the recommendation that you should give that advice you get from them?
It would be amazing to have the kind of relationship with your in-laws where they see you as a daughter, and so your happiness is also important to them.
Yes.
So they can call you out and be like, excuse me, Mike, what are you doing? We didn't raise you like this. You can do better. Treat her well.
Yes.
Like, it would be so amazing to have relationships with in-laws where once they see you as another one of their children. So as my husband, my father sees it as not
this is my extra son.
Exactly. I've not lost a daughter. I've gained a son. That way, if you were to go to him and be like, hey,
Shiko manze of late, man,
I don't know what's going on with her. And he would not see you as attacking his daughter. He would be like, oh, I know he loves her. Let's find out what's going wrong. So I think the weight of influence that your in-laws carry greatly depends on what kind of relationship. Is it a safe space? Do you see them as a bonus parent, or do they see you as a bonus child, or like an adversary or a competitor for the affection of their child? And that would influence everything. And I feel like for everyone, the ideal is where your in-laws see you as an additional child.
but not necessarily someone who's taking something away from them.
That way the advice they give you will be completely meant to build your relationship and to help the marriage that they're seeing, and not meant to like prove, you see, Mike, I told you she wasn't worth anything, or
she was no good.
Yeah, Shiko, you see, we told you he was no good. You know what I mean? So in those situations where a guy has a clan day and his mom and dad know, what does that say about how they view their daughter-in-law, or what kind of relationship they as a unit, now the in-laws, have?
Considering how men, for example, we carry all of the weight, but nowadays because of, gender equality, etc., the aspect of leadership in family is a bit more gray, but it's considered predominantly a male responsibility. And in terms of that, when should now a man, and let me just deal with men for now, when should men cut that umbilical cord from their mothers? I've heard tons of women who complain about men who their mother's word is more important than the wife's word. If the wife says this and the mother is against it, he won't do it.
That's crazy.
Let me tell you, I can even run it as an experiment. If you want, try it out on social media. Ask men, predominantly men, if your mom wanted, for example, that you buy land in a certain area, let's say in your shags.
Okay.
And your wife is saying, I don't want us to buy land in your shags. I want us to buy land in Nairobi, and you could afford it, and it's there.
And the man is like either way.
Is either way, but for you feel strongly about that. Mom is like, no, achana na Nairobi, you need to buy land here in Gishagi and whatever. Ask a lot of men, see what they'll do. They'll tell you, I'll buy land in Shags
because my
their mother said so. So when should that cord be cut? Because at some point, even as a man, you need to cut the cord. And later on, it even happens in the Bible where Jesus even cuts the cord from his mother. And not that like cut the cord quite literally, but you remember when Jesus got lost in the temple, and when his mother came to ask him, where were you? I was worried. And he was like, yo, I'm in my father's house. When should men do that and understand that I've married a woman, so her opinion should count and have more weight than my mother's?
I mean, maybe that's why the Bible said a man shall leave his. Maybe that's why men were told specifically, because y'all had to be told direct, overtly, you guys need to sever.
You need to sever.
Because to me, even as a mom of 2 boys, I do not want to be the woman in your life. You need to marry and now listen to that woman. I wouldn't want to feel like I'm still the person directing your every decision when you're 20 something and you're with someone, or 30 something or 40 something. So I wonder what it is about those men. There's like a word for it in psychology, but like I really struggle to understand. Freud. Yes, Freud is like Freud coined a term for these men who are unable
to cut the cord.
Yes, it's like they're always vying for the affection and love of their mothers
over any relationship they have.
It's a psychological thing where you find that you value the affection and opinion of your mother
over your wife
in a way that's even desperate for affection.
I've got a theory in me. I'll tell this to all men. If you want to hate on me, hate on me. The minute you get your first job, be a man, because now you're planning your life. Me, I believe that. I believe that for free, and I'll tell it for free. The minute you finished campus like this,
that's when you to sever.
In fact, watch our marriage. Plan your life. You go to your mother for advice, not for her to make a decision for you. You can go to them for advice. Even your father. Hey, Dad, I've got 100,000 bob. I'm thinking of doing this and this and this. How do you think I should execute it? I've already come with a decision. Like, I'm going to, let's say, start a business. How do I execute it well? And also understand this, that I believe parents are human beings and they are prone to mistakes just like you. You cannot go to your father who has been a farmer all his life and then ask him about how you want to start a tech company. You can't go to your mother, for instance, assuming she was a stay-at-home mom. And yes, she was there, not to say that she's not smart, but she was a stay-at-home mom. And then you're going to her and asking her, hey mom, Ebu, assist me, which is the best location for opening a biashara for this and this and that. No, if she's a stay-at-home mom, I can say, Mom, I've been thinking of redoing my house. And I loved how growing up you used to do the home at home, like, help me out here. But you can't go and talk to her about putting money in the money market fund. That's a you decision. When are you as a man going to show leadership? I love, for example, my relationship with my mom today. Because she will ask me, Mike, what are your plans for XYZ? I will tell her these are my plans. She may have a different opinion, but I'll tell her I'm sorry. My life, my mistakes, my choices. You as my mother expect you to be there for me if I fall. But you have to allow me to make my own mistakes.
Yeah, and
You
I
must.
feel like that should be the goal as parents, not to raise children who are forever dependent and hanging on your every word and
Yes.
approval. I would want to raise children who I can genuinely be like, how do you think you should go about this? And they'll tell me something and I'll be like, you know what? Not what I would say, but I see the sense in what you're saying.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Believe it.
Yeah.
And all you have to do is assure that child that, you know what, I'll still be here for you. Whether it works or not is neither here nor there.
Yeah.
Me, my role is being a parent to you. So you do you. But in case shit hits the fan, I'm your mother, I'm your father, I got you.
Yeah.
I'll tell men again, the minute you get your first job, sever that relationship. Not that you don't go back home, not that you don't help out at home. I mean that make your choices. When you go to your parent, you're asking for advice on how to execute decisions that you are making. That's what I believe a parent's role is. I want to start this. What is the best way to do it? But however, the minute you get married, forget your mother and forget your father, and you and your wife sit down and make decisions that work for you, based on your plans for you. And that's it.
The goal is, or the hope is, that you have such a good relationship with your in-laws that they would want that for you as well, and just be there, like you're saying, to say, we know we support you. You guys start your life, do whatever you're doing, but we're here.
But we are here. Just always know we're here.
Yeah, we're your social net. We're here for you.
And that's a very comforting thing, I believe, for a lot of people, to know that there's someone who has your back. So as I approach this thing, I can approach it with the courage of knowing someone else somewhere has my back. But for now, let's execute it the way we are planning to execute it.
Like, I am extremely thankful for my family because, like I told you, like we've spoken about on this podcast, when things were really bad, scarily bad in my last relationship. In fact, my brother was talking about it this past weekend. Like, do you know our parents evacuated you from where you were? That's how scared they were for your safety. And imagine if I didn't have them. I shudder to think of what would have happened if I didn't have them. But I always knew, like even when I called them, like I just said, in the middle of the night, I knew they would pick up.
Yeah.
I knew they would be there for me.
Yeah.
I've heard of situations where a woman will go to her own parents and talk about abusive situation, and the parents will be like, nope,
No, go back.
go back.
And you know it's because wamechukua mahari.
What do you mean?
Yes.
You feel like it's just because
Let
of
me
dowry?
tell you- hey.
Really? You think that's what it is?
And I'm sorry to say this, I'm not trying to be tribalistic here, but in Kikuyu culture, payment of dowry is very big.
Once the man has paid the dowry,
and then,
the woman goes
back to their father's house at Hey, boss, after we've received payment. And you know dowry
that is
never ends. You pay it
Yeah.
over time,
Yes.
right? That person will be called back and told, hey, madam, go back to huko. Najua tumekubali mahari.
The situations I've heard, it's even more about optics, about what will people say. You can't be divorced. Like, divorce is taboo. Being a single mom is taboo. So much that they would even send a woman back to an abusive husband.
Yes.
Just because the optics are worse than her ending up
very
hurt.
true.
That is really sad.
It is very true. Even in times of problems and things that you need to have done in terms of trying to grow as a couple, you find that in-laws can either be a plus or a minus. And so even as in your points of growth, the way you get judged, in-laws who, for example, are highly, extremely religious, and I'm not talking about the religiousness of just you go to church every Sunday, those ones who are typical fanatics. And then you tell your father, hey, by the way, you know, Mike is opening a club here and there. And they start saying, hey, that guy is a heathen. You know, like in-laws can either make you or break you. And that's why I think that severing is important.
I was just going to ask you, do you think in-laws can make or break a marriage?
Yes, they can. Let's be honest. Even if, for example, if my mom says, I'm not accepting of Shiko, I don't want her to be a part of your life.
Yeah, Mike.
Right? Of course, I'll still be with you. However, it will still nag me in the back of my head.
It would put a strain.
Yeah, strain on me. And that strain over time will translate into our marriage. And then I'll start looking for more reasons to agree with my mother in my head. And start thinking, oh, maybe that's why mom, every time we have a fight, oh, mom was right. Every time we were, oh, mom must have been right. She must have seen something. And yet, all I need to probably do is focus on my marriage and stop thinking about what my mom says. You know what I mean?
But once it's out there, like once your mom has already said,
it's a seed. And so that's why it's important. And by the way, thank God for my family who always believes that, Mike, as long as you're happy, I really don't care who you marry. Can bring an Indian here, bring a
you're
Mexican.
saying that like it's the...
No, it's not a bad thing. I'm just using it as an example. I mean, there are cultural differences that sometimes marriage may not necessarily work between those
I mean, there are some cultures that will downright not accept.
Would not accept you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, but my family is like, yo, me, I don't care. Me, my only care is, are you happy? And I've heard that from my family over and over to the point that I really have no fear. Yeah, the only thing I know they'll be against is if I decide to go crazy and marry a goat. Then
I was really waiting to hear what you're going to say. If you go crazy and what? But I think, like you're saying, you have to have boundaries, but also the goal is to not need such hard boundaries because you know that there's love on both sides.
Yes, but there also can be selfishness. There also can be jealousy.
We're all human.
We are all human. So for me, I would say this, for any in-law, build a relationship with your son-in-law or with your daughter-in-law. It's important. Make them feel at home. Make them feel like family, right? Because in-laws in a couple's life, remember, it is a privilege to be let into a couple's life. It is not a necessity. It is nothing. I've seen in-laws who've refused children because they don't like a couple, right? It is not a must. You're being allowed into the privilege of these two people who are there. So if you feel that you can't accept the other person's choice in a partner, at least accept your responsibility to support your child in that journey of that you know what, I may not like your partner, I may not be accepting of him, but you always know I got your back.
Yeah, and I think just going back to the story of Naomi and Ruth, both of them were rewarded for their selfless love and loyalty to each other. Ruth was rewarded, and Naomi must have been such a bomb-ass mother-in-law because Ruth was like, please, this is where I'm going. Your people, listen, gang. I'm not going anywhere. So you have to imagine Naomi showed that kind of love abundantly to Ruth, where she was, the person who brought us together is gone, but you and I, the love is still there.
Yes.
And Ruth obviously felt really privileged and felt the love back to Naomi, so that even later on in life, Ruth was still listening to what Naomi said, like, do this, and this is the best way to be together. So I feel like that is the ideal, the Naomi and Ruth relationship, but it takes both sides.
It takes both sides. It truly does. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the Heart to Heart podcast with Mike and Shiko. That's it for today. It was all about basically those relationships with friends and with in-laws. Tafadhali, try and find a way to have a relationship, but always remember, if you two are together, everything outside of that is bringing it down can also be noise, and you have to learn how to filter that noise so that you get the sound that you want to hear. Aki nani am brilliant.
Thank you for your monologue. Comment down below with your stories, the good, the bad, the in-between of your experiences with in-laws and close friends. How did they positively or negatively affect your relationship? Have you broken up with someone, but you and the sister, or you and the mom, you and the dad, you and the brother are still really close? Yeah, tell us about your experiences.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Before I go, what day is today?
Oh my God!
You see, and they say men forget dates.
What? I felt like I knew that one.
This is why Shiko and I need to start doing this thing live.
Honestly, it's
or
too
even
hard to remember.
so that people can, get to know real time. We always get confused about, the show is airing on a certain day, but we're recording it on a certain day.
Me especially.
Oh my gosh.
So it's going to air like several days from today, which will be the day after Mike's birthday.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Let's call it that. So we'll say Kwaheri. Catch us again next week as we navigate through life together in your 30s and 40s in a blended family. We'd like to say asante for your time.
Let's keep it at love and life and relationships.
Love, life, and
not necessarily blended family. I have a lot of my girls in the streets who listen to this podcast.
Tukifika ile book ya Solomon, we'll talk about them.
Oh my gosh.
So we'll catch you again next time. This has been the Heart to Heart podcast.